Hi, this is Annie with Family Homesteading in West Texas. In today's video, I will share with you how we gave our kitchen a complete makeover for under $300. This is a video that's probably something completely different from what you usually see on our channel here. You will usually see a lot of gardening, cooking, taking care of our animals. Well, it is winter time and I just know that our kitchen was due for a little makeover. This kitchen was definitely in a lot better shape 3 years ago when we moved in, but we cook all day, every day. I did the math the other day and I think we cook around 9,000 to 10,000 meals per year in this kitchen. So it was definitely due for a little touch up. And I will share with you exactly what we did to the kitchen. I will also share with you some decluttering tips that I found very helpful, and that way you can just stay on top of your items that you have and make sure that you actually can use your items that you have and they're not just there taking up space. Enjoy! So these cupboards are painted with a shiny paint, and for that reason we will need to chalk paint it before we do the actual paint, so that the paint will actually stick and stay. As you see, there's a couple of places here where the paint has peeled away. We are making sure we are removing all the peeled paint, and then we're removing all the doors. And here's what I mixed to do the chalk painting. I'll put the recipe in the description box, but I used plaster of Paris, putting it through a sieve, making sure I don't have any lumps in there, mixing in some water, and mixing in a little bit at a time, making sure I'm not making any lumps, and just whisking it, making sure it's very nice and smooth, gradually adding more water while I'm whisking. When I have a nice smooth batter, I'm ready to actually add the rest of the water that should be going in there. I'm mixing in all the water and then I'm ready to add the paint. And this has to be a water-based paint, and you could use any color. I'm using the same color that I actually want my cupboards to be. I want it to be covered, so this would be the first step to help it to cover. And for this, I actually bought a cheaper paint than the one that I used for the top coating, because this was just something that I did to help the actual paint to stick to the cupboards, and so that it wouldn't peel away as the old paint did. With this chalk paint, I have to make sure that I keep it in an airtight container, since this will dry pretty fast. So I'm putting the majority of it in one container and then just putting a little bit in another container that I will be using to dip my brush into when I'm painting. And then as my container gets too empty, I will just put a little bit in my container again at a time so that it wouldn't dry out. I would be able to clean all this with soap and water, but it has to be done immediately. And then we are ready for the painting. This is the first coat of chalk painting, and we did not do a lot of sanding. We did remove the peeled paint, as I mentioned before, but we didn't do any sanding at all, basically. And then we added 2 coats of the chalk paint. That was a lot of work, since we had a lot of these pretty curved edges. They all had to be brushed in really well so that they would be nice and covered. So that took up quite a bit of time. So it was a white color before we did anything, and then after 1 coat it looked really striky, and then 2 coats it looked a lot better, but then we also added the paint, of course. So I added 2 coats of the chalk painting and then 2 coats of the actual paint. And I did choose like an interior and exterior paint for this. This was actually a paint that was meant to be for floors and porches, but I wanted to last, so I picked out a more durable one. And then for the flat surfaces, I was able to use a little roller. That sped up the process quite a bit, so I wouldn't have to brush on everything. So whenever I was able to, I would definitely go for the roller. So after all these interior things were done, we took the doors into the garage, and then for the doors we were able to use a painting roller, of course, for the flat surfaces. But same thing here, we had a lot of those edges that need to be brushed, And so that was another big job, but so worth it at the end. And same thing with the doors. We did 2 coats of the chalk painting and then 2 coats of the actual paint. And I did mention before that I used like a durable paint, but I didn't use a glossy paint. I chose the satin one. I feel that was probably what I was after. And so far, I am glad I didn't pick a glossy paint. So a lot of these edges took a lot of time. So you see I'm brushing on all the edges, and there was, I think, 33 doors in total. So I was painting from sunrise to sundown, and I think I painted for 6 days straight, but I'm still so happy we did it. We also took off all the hinges and the knobs, and we painted them black with steel paint. I really think that black goes very well with the color that we painted the cupboards, and that way everything looked new. The hinges, the knobs. We also painted the little screws that we used to put on the hinges. That way everything would match up and there wouldn't be any mismatching or mix matching. And I'm super thankful for my son and my husband. They were so helpful when it came to putting on the doors, which I wasn't able to have all the time to do everything, so they really pitched in. I'm super thankful for that. So as we were putting on the doors, it really came together and we could kind of get a sneak peek of what this would actually look like. And we were all getting super excited to have the end result. I also painted the baseboards the same color as I did the cupboards, and pulling off the tape is just one of those real satisfying end results to actually see the real picture. And there it is. All the cabinets are done, all the doors are on. It feels so nice and so clean, but we have one more thing to do. So next up is the backsplash. At first I wasn't planning to paint the backsplash, but the sealer that was on the grout here, it has basically all come off, and it's pretty hard to clean these ridges because there's no sealer on there. And plus, you see these little holes in here. That's pretty and all, but in the summertime we tend to have some issues with ants living in the holes. So I'm going to paint the backsplash to make it easier to clean and hopefully prevent the ants for next summer. I did the same thing with the backsplash. I gave it a coat of chalk painting. I was not able to use a paint roller because there were so many holes. So I was doing it with a brush, and that worked fine. I gave this backsplash 1 coat of the chalk painting and then 2 coats of the actual paint. But then I was gonna do some exciting things with this backsplash. So the backsplash is a light gray color. Now I am using white paint and a bathing sponge. I'm lightly brushing it into a painting pan, dipping my sponge into the pan, and then I'm making little odd white spots with the gray backsplash. And I really think this was very beautiful, but afterwards I decided to do one more thing. So after all the white was on, I decided to add a little bit of black. Since our knobs and hinges were black, I thought this would probably make a really beautiful backsplash. At first I wasn't sure if I was going to ruin it, so I started behind the fridge. If I were to not like it, then I would have just covered it again. But I did end up liking it a lot, so I finished the whole backsplash with the extra black in there. And there it is. The kitchen is complete. All the cabinets, backsplash, the walls and the ceiling, everything got painted. Even the knobs and the hinges. Now I am ready for some decorations. I'm going to put up some greenery. I've never been much of a decorating person, but now I just felt that I needed to add a little bit of greenery to my kitchen. So I won't be doing a lot, but I will add some of these eucalyptus leaves to the crown of the cabinets. I am not sure how well they will clean, but we will see. I think this green goes very well with this new color. I'm also a big fan of cast iron, so I'm using these two little beautiful pans on top of my stove, and that is that. Our kitchen is complete, and I am so very happy with the results. And the most exciting part of it all is that it wasn't expensive. This was a cheap thing, but it was a lot of work. Okay, so now that the kitchen is done, I would also like to talk to you a little bit about some decluttering that I did. We had a pretty full kitchen, and I used a couple of rules this time by decluttering. I've learned a lot about decluttering the last couple of years. Since we're a big family, we need to stay on top of the items we have and if they serve a purpose or not. So first of all, I have a couple of Tupperware items that I use probably every 2 years. They're not worth keeping. They're just taking up space. I have a pretty little tea kettle that I use practically never, so it's not worth for it to take up space. I have an electric deep fryer, which if I have it, I would probably use it a couple of times a year, but I do have a cast iron Dutch oven that I like, so it's not important for me to keep two items that serve the same purpose. Now this was a big thing for me. This is a 4-slice toaster, and we did use it quite often, but I do have another item which can serve the same purpose as this one does. This little toaster oven serves as a microwave as well as a toaster. It has this little toaster button. So for me, I just have to kind of go the route that if I didn't have this item, would I be able to still do what I would be doing if I still keep this item? Or if I were to get rid of this item, is there anything else in my house that I could use instead of this item? Same goes for all of that. And then I have this whole box of little items, plastic containers with lids, and I would use them every once in a while, but I just had too many. I think same thing here, if I didn't have these, I would still be okay. I have something else that I could use instead. Thank you all very much for watching this video. For more tips like this one, or for gardening, canning, cooking and baking from scratch, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you won't miss any of them.